All right, so today in JavaScript, we're going to talk about strings. And strings are just like every other language, especially like Ruby, because a string in Ruby has methods and a string in JavaScript has methods. You can do things to the string that are defined for you in the language. C# has the same thing. I can convert things, I can parse things, I can do all kinds of fun stuff. So one of those is like this length. So we did that yesterday when we played around with that a little bit. And we'll do some more. Here's some other methods that we can operate on the string. We can search for things in a string. We can extract a piece of the string. We can convert it to uppercase and lowercase. And there's a lot of other methods like that too. So let's play with some of them. I like to play with stuff. So here's let's just go into the console. I like to play with the console. So you had a question about the DOM. If we look at the sources here, this is the HTML, and we should be able to look at our DOM in here, if I can find it. Where is it? That's the breakpoints. No. So the document is the entire object. And it has all kinds of properties. Firefox, I think, has a better way of looking at the DOM. You can open up and contract pieces of the model. So forget that. I don't know where it is in Chrome. So let's play with the console. Strings, we can define a string and assign it to a variable. This is a string. And now A is what type of object? It's a string, right? You guys get that one right all the time. That's good, whether you think it's right or not. So I can call some properties on that, like length. I have to hit tab. So the length of my string has 16 characters. Have you guys gone through arrays yet? No. Really? All right. So a real quick thing on array, a string can be indexed like an array. I can say a sub 0. What do you think that's going to return? Capital T, right? Very good. A sub 3. It's just like Ruby, right? Just like Ruby. I can index a string and pick out a specific character from that, just like an array. So I'm indexing the string as if it was an array. I don't have to convert it into an array. It already is one. It can be looked at like an array anyway. All right, I can say .to uppercase. And when we're calling a method, we have to use the parentheses. And that does not leave it in place. That does it just converts it all to lowercase now. There's the substring. And these I always get mixed up. There's a substr and a substring. And they have different properties. So let's go. For some reason, I can't get this one in my head. I always have to come and look this up. So let's go look at the substring method. And it takes two parameters, a from and a to. So the from is the index in the string where we're going to start the extraction, and the to is where we're going to stop. The to is optional, so it will automatically default to the end of the string. So if I want to say I want to start at position 10, true. All right, substring of this A, which is this is a string, 10th character is S. We can verify that by saying A sub 10, which is the S in the string. And then I didn't pass another argument, so I just picked it up from the B to the end of the string. All right. If I want to actually have a piece of that that's smaller, I can give it something like 5 to 7. And that gives me the is in the string. Yes, absolutely. This is, I can say I want 2 plus 2 to 7 plus 3. Yes, a dot substring. I can do anything in here for these two arguments. I can call other functions as long as it returns a number. So I can say a dot length. The minus 3 is a weird concept though. So
you have to get rid of the comma and have to format it like math.
no, this is just a value. This will return what? 16, the length of the string. And so I'm telling it to get a string from the end of the string forward by -3 characters. It just doesn't work right. So I could say I want the end of the string. This is what you were getting at, right? Okay. And then to the end of the string, so I get the last 3 characters of the string, will give me an ing. Very good. Yes. Very good. All right, and now the different one is called Substr. So let's look up that guy. Substr. And it's slightly different. It takes different parameters. The starting point and the length. Instead of 2 indexes, I want the starting point and then how long I want to pull out a string from. And I always get these wrong. Every time. So I always look these up. And I've been doing this for years, so I just have a mental block against this one. So let's do start and length. You have a JavaScript block. So start and length, so my A looks like this. I can say a.substr from the starting point of 4, and I want a length of 2. Okay, so it started with the space and gave me 2-character string, or I can do 5 and 2, gives me the is. Right? And again, we can do math inside of that. So those are some quick methods. There's tons of JavaScript methods. If we look at the whole string object, there's all kinds of methods that we can use. So I can look at the character at a specific index. This is really a little bit deprecated now. That works the same way as why not index it like an array. So I can do the char at. I could say a.char at 4, and that returns the space. That's the same thing as just saying a sub 4. So it's a little bit deprecated. You used to not be able to index, from what I remember, years, 12, 13 years ago. All right, char code at returns a Unicode character because JavaScript works with different languages. So you could have strings of Japanese and they use a different character set, and so you want to return the code that makes up that character. Concat is also something that's not used very often because how would I add 2 strings together? Plus, right? Just like most other language, I can say a plus Dave gives me, this is a string Dave. That did not modify the original string, right? Because why? I didn't add it I didn't put it back into the A variable. So A stayed the same, I just printed it to the screen. It didn't modify my original variable, right? Everybody got that? All right, let's just look at a couple. Index of, these just return the occurrence. So say I want to find the first occurrence of a letter I in my string. This is like a quick version of a regular expression. I can say index of the I character, and that comes back with 2. So A sub 2, if I look, remember they start with 0. 0, 1, 2 is the I. So you see a lot of times saying, I want to find the substring starting at the position where I find the first I, and give me 3 characters after that. All right, so there's some math. This is calling the index of I, which is going to return what? 2, and give me a 3-character string back. So you use these index of a lot to figure out where you are in the string. And this is something that you end up doing a lot of, parsing strings in JavaScript. For some reason, that's just, you do a lot of this kind of stuff. So we can replace, we can match. This uses regular expressions. So you should know those from taking Ruby, and you all have taken Ruby, right? Yes, should have all taken Ruby. So the match does regular expressions. Replace can use regular expressions, and you can replace the word and with the or whatever you want. Search also uses regular expressions. Slice is the same thing as substring and substr, very similar to that. Split is just like the Ruby split. I can convert a string into substrings based on some value. And so if I want to split it on a space, for instance, works the same way. If I have my A value here, I can say A.split on a space, and it gives me an array of all the words between the spaces, or around, surrounding the spaces. No, A is still alone. It returns an array, so I'd have to say my words, or I'll just say words equals A.split of space, and so now words is an array containing that. A is still the original string. So almost nothing does anything in place. It has to be assigned back into a variable if you want to use that value. Okay, any questions on that? To-low or substring, we went through all of those. This was originally designed to help you create HTML on the fly, on the client side. So I can use these methods on a string, but they're just not used that much. I could say A.bold, and it returns a string with the bold tag surrounding the string. So sometimes that's useful. Not very often, though. I can say I think it's italic, puts an I around it. So there are some cases, I guess, that might be useful for that. Small, strike, sub, soup. So these are methods that they're basically just adding HTML around the string that you have in there. It might be. The tag is still going to work, though, which is interesting. And in CSS, you can use that for whatever you want. I could style that however I want. Yeah. Well, what they're doing, though, now is, even though this bold is kind of deprecated, a lot of designers are using that as a shorthand for a span tag. It's an inline tag. It's not a block level element. So it's shorter than writing span. And you can style the B inside the style sheets however you want. So it gives another class tag you can put on it. No, in the style sheet, you just define it, and that's overriding whatever the browser does. Yep. So I could make the B tag italic if I wanted, whatever. Right? So, all right. So any questions on any of the string methods? All right, let's look at the source of this and see what else is. Well, before that, I wanted to talk about addition of strings, because JavaScript does some strange things with strings. If I have I already showed you I could add Dave plus Jones, and that gives me a string of Dave Jones. I could add Dave plus 42, and it tries to determine the best way to concatenate these. And since the plus sign is an operator that's been overridden for strings, it converts everything into a string first and concatenates them together. So if this is a number, it's going to convert it to a string and then add it to the Dave. So I'll have Dave 42 as one string. Everybody see that? So it does an automatic conversion of the number to the string. So you'll get weird things when you try to get value from a text box and you add 1 to it to try to increment that value. All of a sudden you have a string of 51 instead of 6, which is what you'd expect. So you're constantly having to convert from text into a number and back again, right? So how do you do that? Parse int, right? That's a lot of words to try to figure out how to convert it. So I could say parse int. This IntelliSense doesn't work very good. Parse int of 5 plus 1 is going to give me 6. Okay, that's what I get back. Now, there's a shortcut because this is done a lot, and she probably hasn't shown this to you. This is a weird shortcut. The plus sign is overridden for the string class, but the minus sign is not. There's no concept of subtracting a string from each other. So in that case, the minus sign says, oh, what makes the most sense when I'm subtracting a string and a number? It makes more sense to change the string into a number instead, right? So I could say 5 minus 0, that automatically turns it into a number. Isn't that cool? So that's the way I do a lot of it. I can say 5 minus 0 plus 1 gives me the 6 that I want. It's a little easier than writing parse int. I just don't like parse int. Isn't that a cool little shortcut? Yeah, it's up to her if she allows you to use that. So that's kind of cool. Kind of a cool little shortcut. So I wanted to show you that. So let's look at the source of this page. And see if we can get this up here. And remember how we were able to put breakpoints in here and reload the page, and now it's going to walk through my JavaScript one at a time. So the var string, this is going to put these characters into this variable. So I've got a string variable now that has data in it, and I can hover over it and see what it is. I can look at my local strings here. All right, and then I'm going to write this out to the screen, and then they call the upper and lowercase on it. So we've already done that in the console. So we have a to upper for those. That's just the same thing. These are all the bold and italic stuff that we just talked about also. So all they're doing is putting values, HTML values around the string, and then when you print it out again, the browser itself sees that as a tag and displays it as HTML. Okay, so anytime we write something to the screen, what are we really writing to the document? What are we writing? HTML. You got to remember, we're writing HTML to the screen. So things like carriage returns and things and extra spaces, what happens to those extra spaces? They disappear. They get crunched because HTML doesn't like white space. It tries to get rid of all that stuff. So if I want to make a line go to another line, what would I have to add at the end of my line? A break tag. That would be a quick way to do that. All right, so remember that. Those that have PHP should know that. We're always outputting HTML. All right. And then they're talking about the character, and we kind of already went through all of this stuff. So, any questions on any of this? Slicing and dicing, converting to an array. This converts it into a split. We already talked about that. And searching. We talked about that. All right. Any questions on any of that? This here? I don't know. Split string. Let's see what that is here. Yeah, it's just a variable. That's just a variable. Yeah, that's just a variable. That means that I can call the split on a variable. That's basically what that's doing. All right, we did the index of. We could do a little bit of regular expressions. No?
They've had enough of it in Ruby.
Let's look at the match value. I'm recording. Yeah, I know, exactly. I don't know if she'll want me to teach. Let's see. So here's regular expressions work the same way as in Ruby. The syntax is the same. So let's play with that a little bit. So if I have my A, whoa. Seriously, now it does that. Maybe I don't have it anymore. This is a test. So I can call the match method on this and pass it a regular expression. And we pass it just like we do in Ruby with the two slashes. I want to match is. So where is that going to find something? It returns the string where it found it. That's the match. It found that. So what if I want to match an I followed by any single character? Okay, that would be an I dot. It's going to be is again. It found the is. That doesn't make any difference, right? How about a I dot space? All right, that finds the is with a space. I want to find an I followed by any number of characters followed by a T. Yeah. Right, it found the first is, that's the first I, followed by any character, any number of times, 0 or more times, followed by a T. So is a test. Do a what? Yeah, it's not going to find anything. I get a null back. I get in JavaScript, a null is a nil, like a nil in Ruby. Okay, it's not a value. It's nothing in it. Null. Oh, a.test. That's the same thing. Is there an is? Yeah. Did my A get messed up? No. Test is just another. Ah! So we have to look at regular expressions if you want to look at that. So there's different, this goes through all the same thing. Those are all the same as in Ruby. /W, word character, /W is a non-word character. So we won't go through any of that. There are some methods here. We have a test, matches a string. Exec will execute the match and set some variables for you that you can play with, a lot like Ruby. Yeah, I know. So let's go look at test. It works differently. We have to create a regular expression object and then test a string based on that. That's a whole different thing. That's like this. We create my matcher is a new regexp of a value for is. Okay. So that's a new regular expression. And then I call matcher.test on a value, my a string. And that returns, it does contain the word is. That's what that is. It's a little different way of doing it. And it's all about a efficiency's sake. When I create a regular expression like this, it compiles the regular expression into an object that it doesn't then have to recreate every time. If I put this way up here inside of a loop, it's having to recreate this regular expression every time, which is fairly time consuming, and it's slower. It makes your loop significantly slower. So if you compile it once and then use that inside of your string, it's a lot faster. Yep.
What other methods does a regular expression have?
Just those three. We have the match, the test, and what was the other one? Compile. So compile is similar. That takes a regular expression and creates an object. But so does just creating it like I did. This does the same thing. That creates and compiles a new regular expression object. All right, I think we strayed off script there. Let's see what else we have. Into functions now. These are not anonymous yet, right? So these are just methods that we can create. In Ruby, we define a function, and it can take some parameters in, and it can return some data out. So it's a way of setting aside a block of code that I can execute in the future, similar, exactly the same as a Ruby method. All right, so it can take arguments, it can give something back. So we can write some of those. Let's do a quick. They're called functions.
Why don't they just call everything
Ruby's the one that's different. Most everybody else calls it functions. So Ruby is different. So I can create a function called sum, and I might pass in an A and a B. And we create our function with curly braces. I don't know if I can do this on multi-lines. Maybe not. This is going to be a little hard. I can return, then, using the return statement, A plus B. And we use curly braces to surround our method, our function. And we can have multiple statements on multiple lines. I'm just doing it in one line because the console won't let me do that. Really? Come on. I might not be able to do that in here.
do var equals function?
I'm going to have to... yeah, you can. You can. That's the whole idea of these anonymous functions that you'll get into. And jQuery uses them a lot, so you're going to get really used to those guys. So let's take my source here and create a function. Where is it? All right, here in Notepad++, here's my little function. This one was a function that she created, or whoever, called showString methods. And all of that was not executed until you call the method showString methods. You have to create the method, which sets aside the code for later, and it never gets invoked or called or executed until I call the method. So I can create another function in here. We'll call it function sum, and I'm going to pass my A and my B. And we have, how does she want your things written? Okay, that's good. That's the way I like mine too. That's what you call it. Yeah, probably. See how we get these mixed up ourselves, right? That's methods, it's a function, it's a procedure if you're in Pascal. I mean, there's all kinds of names. They're exactly the same thing. They are exactly the same thing. So here I'm going to return a value of A plus B. All right, so then once that function is defined, I can call that, and I can say sum of 2 and 2.
That's why you can't do that. Sum is used.
I don't think so.
No, it'd be colored.
Oh, yeah. I don't have to call it. It's just sitting there waiting. Right. So that what will that do? Well, let's run it and see. Why?
You're not printing it out.
Right. Oh, I'm blocking my code here. Kill our breakpoints. Run. So I see nothing at the bottom of this. It should have printed out in the document wherever that function is being called. I have nothing. So how do I print that out to the document? Or let's show, instead of an alert, I want to get you guys console.log, and I want to print out the value of this function. All right, and I can say 2 plus 2 equals as a string, and add the value of whatever this function is coming back as, which is what? What will this data type be that comes back? A number. And since I'm adding a string and a number together, what's it going to print out? A string. Okay, so good. So let's run it again. And where is it? Let's get rid of this. That's right. It's not. Am I? What am I doing? Did I not? I didn't save it. See, I'm used to PHP Storm automatically saves it when you click out of the file. I get used to that. I get used to that.
I know I was doing that when I started.
All right, so it printed out 2 plus 2 equals 4, and it didn't print anything to the HTML. It just shipped it out to the console. So I think that's a lot easier than doing this. I hate all these little buttons coming up all the time. So this is the other way to do it. Oops. You gotta be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. Let's see. Can I view this in a browser?
Just go to run.
In the very top. One of the drop downs.
No.
View in.
Launch in.
Jeez. So that shows an alert, which is just not as much fun as the console, I'm telling you. So I like the console open. Yeah, you can do document.write too. All right. So I can also set the variable output equals whatever this is. I can log it, now my output, to the console. I can alert it to the screen, and I can document.write it to the HTML, all 3 places. All right, I got to get rid of my. So there's the alert. Here it is on the HTML write, and my console has it. So I can do anything I want. I'm in control, right? So that's a quick little function. It takes parameters in. Same as Ruby. There should be no funny business here. This is very simple. And I can have as many statements in here as I want. All right? Any questions on functions? Now, she'll probably get into anonymous functions next week, so you can study up on that in your book. That's what's going to be used a lot in jQuery. They use a lot of anonymous functions. So,
The ones when you assign them variables, right?
yeah. Or just call them and don't assign them to anything. It's a strange thing, yeah. They're used for callbacks and event handlers and all kinds of fun stuff like that.